So, if you've been watching American Horror Story for an embarrassingly long time, like I have, you might have noticed a few recurring themes. Those themes are usually something like throat slashing or throat slashing. But one of the most common recurring plot elements in the entire series seems to be pregnancy. People have a lot of theories as to why this might be. The most common one that I've seen is that Ryan Murphy has a pregnancy fetish, and I also think that that's the most likely theory. It just checks out to me. But I think it's fun to examine just how many pregnancies there have been in the series and ponder as to why they're there. Lucky for you, I have made a list of all the pregnancies in AHS, and we're going to go through them together. And we're going to have fun while doing it. You're having fun. You like this. So, starting with Murder House, we obviously have Vivian's pregnancy, which is like the main plot of the season. Vivian is pregnant by two people at the same time. Spoiler alert for a 10-year-old show that you're watching a video about. She's pregnant with the baby of a controlling sociopathic monster, and also Tate the ghost. And one of those babies is the Antichrist, who will pop up later in this video. Aside from that, we have Dr. Charles Montgomery and his wife Nora, who aided women in getting abortions when it was not legal. This resulted in Nora's baby Thaddeus being kidnapped and later returned to them, and later Frankensteined into an immortal being. That was very fun. Very, very normal. Very, very cool. Moving on to Asylum, a whopping 3 characters get pregnant this season. It's a lot. We have Grace, we have Alma, and we have Lana Winters, our main character, which makes 2 seasons in a row where our main character is pregnant. Once again, our main is pregnant against her will. Very, very cool. And 2 of these pregnancies are aided through alien technology. Again, very, very normal, very, very cool. In this case, Lana Winters both tries to perform an abortion herself and goes to a professional, neither time actually going through with it. It was weird. It's weird how that worked out. The baby in the first season ended up being the Antichrist, and the baby in the second season ended up being a prolific serial killer. Very, very normal, very, very cool. Moving on to Coven, kind of a pregnancy light season, at least in contrast to the first 2. In this season, we see Cordelia Fox, or Cordelia Good, however she prefers to be called now, trying to get pregnant and failing. It was like a major plot point in the first few episodes and then pretty much forgotten in the last several. But there was that iconic scene where they performed a fertility ritual that involved snake eggs and snakes, and I didn't like it. Moving on to Freak Show. In Freak Show, we have Desiree Dupree, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, have not seen this one in a while, who has a miscarriage a few episodes in, and it's not really discussed that much after that. And then at the very end of the season, we see that the Tatler twins are pregnant via Jimmy. Jimmy? Jimmy. I don't know why I forgot his name for a second. I guess I didn't. Anyway, I like to personally imagine that this baby would have 3 heads, or at least 2.5. It just seems like something American Horror Story would do without putting much thought into it, and I think that I'm right about that. Hotel. So we actually go back to the murder house in this season when the Countess has a botched abortion. Not very successful with the abortions in this show so far. Kind of 0 for 2. So the Countess gives birth to Bartholomew during her abortion attempt, and now he stalks around the hotel as a disfigured vampire child for, I guess, eternity. He's one of the few characters that never dies. He was just born a hideous, disfigured vampire that eats faces, I think? He bites people. Okay, Roanoke is kind of a weird one because Roanoke is basically Murder House the reboot. Both seasons are about a married couple that suffer a miscarriage and then move across the country into a house that they later find out is haunted. It's just the exact same setup. So Shelby miscarries and it doesn't matter at all. Like, it makes them move. It starts the season, but anything could have made them move. Like, just Cuba Gooding Jr. getting beat up could have made them move. I don't know why they made her miscarry, but they did. I'm gonna move on. Oh my god, Colt. Maybe the ickiest example on this list. So Colt depicts the very real murder of Sharon Tate, who was in her 3rd trimester when she was stabbed to death. I didn't like it. I thought it was just, I think it's icky whenever they portray a real life murder, but this one featuring a heavily pregnant woman when we already know that that's something that the writers are fixated on, I dislike. And then it just gets ickier because we see Kyle attempting to impregnate his sister Winter. Did I just say Kyle? His name's Kai. Now I feel silly while making this American Horror Story pregnancy video. Anyway, we see Kai. Anyway, we see Kai attempting to get his sister pregnant through another guy, but Kai's inside that guy, so it's still very much incesty. It's not successful, and it doesn't really end up mattering that much. Which, again, begs the question, why come they did that? Okay, Apocalypse. Apocalypse is a weird example because babies, like, permeate the marketing. Like, almost every poster featured a little baby covered in redness, or blood, I guess. Blood was the redness. I don't know what I'm saying, my god. But the actual season had very little focus on babies. Of course, Michael, the Antichrist in the season, was one of the babies that Vivian gave birth to in Murder House. We don't really see a lot of infancy imagery until the last episode, when fan favorite characters Emily and Timothy are shown having a baby who is Antichrist 2 for reasons that weren't very clearly established. Very, very normal. Very, very cool. And then we have 1984. Oh my god. 1984. There's no pregnancy in this season. It gets a pass. Moving on to Double Feature, the season that is currently airing that might make this video outdated within weeks. In the first half of Double Feature, subtitled Red Tide, Lily Rabe's character is pregnant. For the 3rd time. Someone in my TikTok comments called Lily Rabe a screaming incubator, and it made me so sad, but like, that is how they use this talented actress. So we see her giving birth. She's in her 3rd trimester when the season begins. And then we see her little baby daughter, her little 6-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old daughter, trying to eat this baby. Said daughter later gets very protective of the baby for some reason, never really explained. The baby changes hands like 3 times and eventually is kidnapped by an evil chemist and whisked away into the night. Very, very normal. Very, very cool. Okay, and then finally, we move on to Double Feature Part 2, subtitled Death Valley, where within the first 5 minutes we learn that Amelia Earhart is both alive and pregnant with an alien baby. And in the second episode, we learn that this baby has killed Amelia Earhart during birth. Remember what I said earlier about depicting real-life murders? This is somehow worse. I didn't even talk about Richard Ramirez because he didn't get anyone pregnant that season. This somehow feels worse. It's like a weird, mean-spirited character assassination on renowned female pilot Amelia Earhart. Why would you do that? Anyway, we also have the present-day segments of Death Valley, which feature 2 college-aged girls and 2 college-aged guys, and all 4 of them are impregnated with alien babies against their will. And in the most recent episode, which is episode 2 of Death Valley, we see one of the men beginning to give birth, and it's implied that he may die. Very, very normal, very, very cool. So in total, there are 2 botched abortions. I believe 6 people were impregnated against their will, and at least 2 of the babies end up being mass murderers. So what does this all mean? What am I getting at? What is the thesis? I like to go with the Occam's razor here. The simplest answer is usually correct. I think Ryan Murphy has a pregnancy kink. Alright, that's the video.